Okay, hello everyone. We are back for our next session. I'm so excited for this one. So if you're like me, I'm still very much new to Web3 and NFTs. So I'm really, really excited for this one. So we have three amazing panelists and our amazing moderator here with us today. And they're going to share more about Web3 and NFTs. So I'm going to let them just get right into it. I'm also just going to let you all know, I'll quickly drop. We've actually created a glossary. So if you are like, I have no idea what is going on, we're going to drop that in there so that you can have some sort of intro language to be a part of the conversation. But without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to you, Makisa, to introduce yourself and introduce our lovely panelists.
Thank you so much, Naya. Hi, everyone. My name is Makisa. I use she, hers pronouns. I am currently the head of growth at IYK, which is an up-and-coming startup in the Web3 space. I'm currently based out of Washington, D.C., and I've been in the crypto space for a little over a year now. So definitely always learning new things and super, super grateful to have the opportunity to share the stage with our amazing panelists today. So I'll just popcorn over to N, and then we can have the rest of the panelists introduce themselves.
Hi, everyone. My name is N Canada. I'm the head of community at Wonder, which is a Web3 project management system that uses Web3 native payments. And my pronouns are they, them. And I'm so happy to be here and evangelize Web3 to everybody.
Perfect. Hi, I am Alex Shebar. I am the events lead for Product Hunt. If you are unaware of Product Hunt, we are the launchpad for startups. It's a community of people who are trying to figure out what they want to launch, what they are launching, looking for feedback, they're looking for funding. As you can imagine, Web3 plays a major element in what we're doing every single day. It is only growing more important, and so sessions like this are more important. I'm very excited to be here and chat about it.
Hi, everyone. I'm Emily. I use pronouns she, her. I'm the head of marketing at Voice, which is a digital art marketplace for creators. And I've been in the NFT space for a little over a year now. So always learning, but really happy to be here.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. The first question that we are going to kick off our session with today is just a question about kind of like speaking to the title, WTF are NFTs. How would each of you personally describe or define NFTs, and what role do you think they really play in Web3 community building? So anyone who wants to speak to this, feel free to jump in.
I can jump in.
Yes.
Or maybe Emily, you want to.
No, I was going to say, I feel like Anne should go first because you're going to do great.
Yeah, so NFT stands for non-fungible token. Again, why was that the agreed definition? No one knows. But NFTs means non-fungible token. Fungibility just means, a dollar dollars aren't technically fungible, but a dollar just is like, if I give you $1, you give me $1, that is, that's fungible, right? It's like this dollar equals the same amount of this dollar. Non-fungible just means that I give you a rock and you give me a leaf, right? Those things are not fungible. They're not interchangeable. They're not the same. So all NFTs are tokens on the blockchain that are not the same as each other. So that's kind of where you can start having like this trading, bartering of saying, well, my NFT is worth more than your NFT, or I like this art more, so I value it higher. And that's where you get into like the speculation, financialization of it all. But that would be my example of like what is non-fungible token.
Yeah, that's great. And what I like to say, and we say at Voice, is really NFT technology makes digital art collectible. So it's basically taking an asset and connecting it to the blockchain in a way that people can then buy and sell it. And there's the transparency around everything that is happening to that asset over time.
Yeah. The only thing I will add to that, because those are all perfect definitions, is it's also a definition of character. It's when you head to a new community, you head to a new website, it allows people to see, okay, this is who you are. This is what I'm interested in. This is what I believe in. So it allows you to actually have some personality without even needing to speak. So that is the one other element of NFTs. It helps build community because it allows you to have a personality based around those things.
Love it. Great. Thanks all. And then for the next question, what are some examples of kind of effective methods for community building that you've seen so far in the crypto and Web3 space, specifically with regard to how emerging entities in this space, such as DAOs or just other asynchronous organizations, like to build and manage their communities? And as kind of a follow-up to that question, how might these methods differ or contrast with methods employed by Web2 companies?
Where to begin? There are so many good use cases.
There are.
I mean, I think that something that we've seen really, really popular for communities that are starting on Voice is that, people have the ability to airdrop NFTs. And so you can use that as a way to reward your collectors or reward your early supporters. And then we also have this really cool function that allows you to gate specific Discord servers based on which NFTs somebody has collected. And so again, it's a way to reward people who are supporting you and also to kind of gather groups of people, like-minded groups of people together. So if you're all collectors of the same artist, or if you all collected a specific NFT, you obviously have something in common and are able to then connect in Discord.
Yeah. I think if we're going to look at strategy, there is a three-pronged approach that I've seen work pretty consistently when trying to build into Web3, not just based around NFTs, but any kind of Web3 community. Three prongs. So know your product, understand the technology and determine a long-term strategy, and then regulate your community. So to go in quick details about that, one, what are you building here? What do you actually want it to be? What is it based around? What are these common interests, and why should a community be interested? Two, how do you make that determined for the long term? This isn't kind of a flash in the pan thing, and we're going to talk about this of kind of the hindrances of Web3, about how lots of communities die quickly. We can chat about that, but that is not this question. So determine what is going to actually be your long-term strategy to continue growth and then scale upwards. And then three, regulate, because it is so easy to let communities and trolls and the worst population take over Web3 communities, especially if you're running in a third-party platform like Discord. It can fall apart unbelievably quickly, faster than you could ever consider. Because that's really the difference between Web 2 and Web 3. I mean, there are lots of differences, but the biggest one is maybe speed. Web 3 is just so fast at this point, fast to grow and fast to fall apart. So those are my three very quick tips.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll add is I think that actually community utilization, so like using Web3 technology to build community is so nascent. Right, like I think everyone on the stage are like, the kind of like the people at the head of the curve, trying to figure out how we can use this. And my personal kind of perspective is I'm not really bullish or like excited about the financial aspect of it. Right, I think that NFTs just offer this kind of like trusted, almost ticketing system. Right, so like if you think of Ticketmaster, QR code on your phone, whatever. The blockchain just allows you to have your own kind of like more public version of Ticketmaster. So an example of from the community building I've done at Wonder, we were doing a preseason. In the preseason, our head of design developed some POAPs, which is proof of attendance protocol. It's free to mint, and then we had Twitter Spaces, and in those Twitter Spaces, we airdropped to the people who came to the stage, who showed up. We airdropped them those tokens, and then we gated a role in our Discord through Guild XYZ, which is a kind of new product that I'm really excited about. We use the blockchain's data to gate that role to show these are the people who were here early. These are the people who showed up, contributed, helped build our community. And that as a community manager as well helps now me say, okay, who are the people who are there? Who are the kind of like, star users or star community contributors? So I think that like we're still in the early phase of like really imagining, not even like, what's out there right now, but imagining what we want to use the technology for and how we can like, oh, thank you, Jeff. Love the outfit. Thanks. But how we can like, imagine building like a digital community kind of like ecosystem. And I don't know, I would suggest everyone check out Guild. It's guild.xyz. It's an amazing product. They're doing some cutting edge stuff.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that people have wanted in physical space forever. I mean, think about the food industry. Think about this drive to figure out, okay, where does my, meat come from? Who grew it? How did it get from here to there? Why is it on my plate? And like, why should I be like excited about eating it? Same concept in digital space. People want to know who owns, where does it come from? What am I believing in? What am I investing into? Give them that chance. Because if you do, you build this community of ownership that cannot be understated.
Definitely. Yeah, no, these are really great points. And kind of to ask a similar question to the one that was just posed, Can y'all maybe talk through some specific examples of crypto spaces that you think have really strong senses of community? Feel free to talk about your own companies or any others that immediately come to mind, and kind of what makes them stand out from the rest of the noise.
I can go first. I'm happy to. So at Product Hunt, we've seen consistent growth on these companies that are doing really interesting things, again, about ownership, about trying to figure out how do we build community. Now, the issue is that Web3 is this big buzzword term. So on one hand, it's very exciting. You get to be like, okay, who owns the data? Why? It's making us ask a lot of good principled questions that we didn't know we could ask until now. What's really hard, and we've seen this again and again on Product Hunt, is people don't understand it. And even in this session, you know, thank you for putting together that glossary, because I guarantee you there is a percentage of people out here, and it's probably pretty high, that have heard a lot of these terms and have no idea what it is, and are either afraid to ask or don't even know how to jump in. So it's this matter of like, can you make it accessible in a way that makes sense to a lot of different people? I'll give a quick example of a company that I really like. One of my friends named Gabe is the social media manager for a company named Genies. And if you've heard Genies, they're an avatar Web3 based company. What I really like is they have these steps of getting actually people into their community. So first you have to apply, and then you have to do individual interviews with the community themselves, and then actually the founders, and then you're allowed in. So it's this step of like gatekeeping of like, it's not just everybody. It's, you know, do you believe in what we're doing? Can you build a community with us? Can you grow and scale with us? It's this really amazing steps of trying to build like Web 2, what Web 2 almost got, but actually what in person does really well is that human element. That's what Web 3 really does, because it allows you to actually connect with people and say, hey, you are a real person with real identity. Let's build this together. And that's really cool.
I love that. And I love the strategic onboarding process, right?
Check them out.
Yeah, like I think that that's something that doesn't get enough attention when you're talking about building communities, because you have to, like, you obviously want more people in your community always, and growth is really important, but strategic growth is the most important element, and getting to the bottom of why somebody wants to be a part of your community is super important. I feel like I have to say that I've seen an amazing community behavior from the folks at Voice, because partially because N helped us get started back when we first set up our Discord, and did a really great job with that. But also we have really built this community of artists who are willing to support each other, and who come in very humbly, like knowing where they are, kind of where they are as individuals, and then where we are as a whole when it comes to the NFT ecosystem. And they're, you know, showing up every day and saying, I don't know everything, but I'm willing to teach you what I do know. And I might not have all the funds to collect your art, but I'm going to help showcase it on social. And when you help me out, I'm going to help you out. And it's been this really magical space that has kind of like grown and developed truly because of the first people who came in and said, you know, I'm here for the right reason. So I think, Alex, talking about onboarding is such a key.
Yeah, the only thing I want to add is I think we're moving into an era where people are really tired of selfishness. People are really tired of, tit for tat. People want, like, and I'll say mutual aid, right? People want to take care of each other. And I think the zero-sum game that's been operating, at least I'm from the US, but I think the zero-sum game we've been operating with is like burning people out. Marketing campaigns that's totally extractive is burning people out. And I was watching TikTok, I love TikTok, and it was talking about how really the marketing we know now was the early 1900s, right? It's so new, it's a modern human experiment. And I think that we're kind of coming to this understanding that maybe it's a failed one, right? And I think that the blockchain and Web3 as a whole starts to allow you to reconceptualize who your community is, right? I am really bullish on digital community, because it's like, why can't I be in community with someone in Peru and someone in Zimbabwe and someone in the Philippines, someone in China? Why can't I be in community? And then I can show them my care and say, I will buy your NFT, not because I want to go up in value, but I want to support you as a human. Right? I know that this is going to your address, and you're going to take your cold hard ETH, I like to say, and you're going to cash it out in your local exchange. And now you have that financial abundance because I care about you. right? I think that we conceptualize the blockchain so much through like hyper financialization, automated market makers. But, I think what Voice is doing is so cool because they're like, hey, maybe we just take care of each other. Maybe we just show each other appreciation in art, and we don't need to say, I'm going to profit off you, right? We can just say, I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to help you. I'm going to support your artistic endeavors. So I think communities that are going to succeed, and I'm positioning Wonder in this way as well. Communities are going to see that first, educate people, because people just want to know. They're like, what the hell? WTF is an NFT. WTF is Web3. WTF is a blockchain. And I think the companies and the organizations that care and educate in a way that is accessible and kind and loving, I like to say, will be the ones that win, because people will use the product because they're like, you're what brought me here, right? You're what like gave me this understanding to be successful and to not get scammed, to not be rug pulled, and to be safe here. So at Wonder, that's what we're doing. And like, I think we're kind of like ahead of the game in some ways, because we've been like, we want this to be a curated experience. We want people, to get in here who really care, so we can take care of you. But if you don't care about being here, then maybe this isn't the community for you, which is that curation piece that kind of both of you were talking about. But I think curation is hard when you want to grow. But I think exponential growth is slow at first, then pops off, right? So.
And I will say, when you were talking about like the shift from old school marketing to where we're at right now, like my biggest pet peeve right now is that, established brands or companies have started to use the word community because they've seen how it's become such an important concept. But you can't just like slap the label of community on your generic marketing. You actually have to have that human to human interaction and that cycle, right? Like it's not just selling to, it's helping, listening to, like it has to be the cycle. Otherwise it's not community.
And Emily, people can feel when it's inauthentic. Like, I don't know why marketers are always like, oh, we could trick, we could do this. Like, people can feel when you're being inauthentic. Like, it's like, especially with Gen Z and millennials, like, we know, right, when we're being pandered to. We grew up on the internet. So like this, like maybe mover's advantage that companies had is no longer happening. So like, it's very clear when we're not getting our value. It's very clear when we're not being cared about. So like, I think the jig is up, and it reminds me of like, how did marketing work in like the villages of old, right? It was like the town cobbler that you all knew, and either they cared about you and cared about your shoes, or they didn't, right? It was a very simple like relationship, regenerative community building. Exactly, Shannon. So like for me, that's what I think about. It's like Web3 is a return almost to the traditional history of like human society. So like I think of it that big, right? And I know that some people get in the weeds of like, oh, like what is the blockchain? But I like to kind of grab people with that like overarching like idea and then pull people slowly into the tech. And I do the same thing in community building.
Companies over here are playing checkers and you're 3D chess on their own. Like 5 steps ahead, and I love it. You're already in 2030. We need to catch up to you.
Absolutely love it. Yeah, no, I really resonate with these themes of very authentic and mutually beneficial community building. I think given all of the economic and social crises that people in our generation in particular are just now having to shoulder the burden of repairing and fixing, I think that provides all the more of just like a really strong case for why Web3 and blockchain are here to stay. I think that these are tools and structures that we can use to build a new future for all of us. And I think all of you touched upon that really beautifully. So yeah, thank you so much. So now we're going to pivot back to this idea of Web2 companies, or just kind of traditional institutions trying to ride this new Web3 wave into the future. Does anyone on this panel have any thoughts on that? Have you seen, I guess, companies outside of your own or companies that you've worked with in the past do that really well? And
I actually have one.
Yeah,
like this is a really recent example. So I don't know if anyone knows Love, Death, and Robots.
Sure.
So their season 3 just dropped, and like I think, and this is again, you may be more marketing. I'm not sure if you call that like show a company as much, but they did NFT mints But again, they were just, here's a picture from the episode. You can mint it on the blockchain, right? It was a very simple relationship. It wasn't like this whole like roadmap. Like, I'm not bullish on roadmaps. It was very like, here's just a cool thing to try out. And that's how you do it, right? That's how you, if you're, a traditional Web2 company or just a regular organization that's like maybe going digital or whatever, just like, okay, well, here's an experiment, right? Here's a way to kind of, mint on the Ethereum blockchain or mint on a layer 2, like Optimism or Arbitrum or Polygon, right? It's just giving people the opportunity to explore something in a very simple way. And the other option, it was funny, was like mint on the Ethereum blockchain, pay for gas, or download this beautiful piece of art. And I just love that, like, hey, here are 2 cool options for you to explore. And I just thought that was so to the heart of like Web3 community and Web3 ethos. And I was like, this is the most brilliant use. And it was such a random moment, but I was like, this is amazing.
Love that. Let's talk about King of Marketing, Gary Vee, who is phenomenal and worth talking about. And I think Gary Vee did an amazing job stepping into Web3, because what he did was not just be like, all right, I'm going to jump in this bandwagon. When he created his NFTs, they were functional. They were tickets to his venue, to his shows, access to his books. He built community around them. And it wasn't this grand scale. It was me going, him going, I want to connect with you. I want to connect with people who like me. I want them to actually embrace this technology that's coming next. And he did. And it was amazing. And now, of course, his NFTs are worth way more than they were in the beginning. But that wasn't the purpose. And that was really obvious in what he was doing, because what he did was super authentic. And you compare that to, let's say, I'm going to throw some shade, Budweiser or McDonald's. Because who the hell needs a McRib NFT? Nobody cares. Stunt work in Web3 is the most cringe, awful, infuriating things I've seen again and again. And they jump on it again and again because they're like, oh, this is cool. And you're like, no, it's not. What you're doing is not cool. You think it is because you're in this boardroom being like, oh, we need NFTs. Let's make a McRib NFT. I don't give a damn. No one does. Nobody cares about this. It's solely for the shelled grab of money and marketing, and that is not what Web3 is about, as we've just talked about again and again. So there are great ways to do it, and there are terrible ways to do it, and there are examples of both across the board.
Yes to that. So we talk to a lot of brands. Actually, a lot of brands come to us and say like, okay, we want NFTs. Let's do it. Here's what, can we do it tomorrow? And the first thing that we're always asking them is like, why? Why do you want NFTs? Is it something about what can the technology offer your community? And a lot of the times people are stumped by that. They're like, I just want the headline that says X company is, doing NFTs. And so we work with people a lot to say, okay, maybe there's a gap in what you're already doing that NFTs can properly fill, which is great. And then you should definitely do it as a brand. But dropping NFTs just to drop them is actually kind of harmful to the rest of the industry and what everybody's working so hard to build. It could be a cash grab, it could be just an attention grab. But what we really want, and what we're always asking for people, is how does it support your community, or how does it support the creative community, or move everything forward. And actually, I think it's interesting that you said that you're not bullish on roadmaps. I'm curious about that, because I think that one of the things I say to brands a lot is what are you going to do next? What happens when you drop this NFT collection? Are you just going to never speak of it again? Because that, again, feels really harmful for all the people who are learning and exploring and entering this space and then being kind of left in the lurch.
Yeah, I can expand. I think what I mean is that I think that roadmaps are kind of this old mode of thinking, right? Roadmaps are this old mode of thinking where it's like, what am I going to get long term?
Yeah.
Right. And that's, again, goes back to that. It's kind of like antithetical to community, right? You join a community because you want to be there, right? You join a community because it gives you something, right now. And then, I think there is something to be said about growing that feeling, but I think over promising in the beginning is actually a community killer. Right, because then people are there. So maybe a learning from Wonder is having a token can be a community killer, because that makes the community only centered around, I want the token, I want it to go up. Yeah. And that's not community, right? That is a stock market vibe.
True.
So I think that that's kind of my thought about roadmaps. And I think as well, like, I think especially for NFTs, right? Maybe we can just buy art and enjoy it, right? I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm crazy and over here, but maybe we can just, like, I call it a global local art fair, right? Maybe because of COVID, I don't want to go to my local art fair, but maybe my local artist has an NFT collection. I want to support the artist and I want their art, right? So then I'm going to go buy their NFT on whatever blockchain. The other thing I want to note just about NFTs and part of like adoption is gas. I think that like a big blocker for the majority of people is, Ethereum gas, and Bitcoin gas can be quite hard too. And people don't know, gas is basically, in order to like get your transaction on the blockchain, you need to pay a certain amount of money, because it's basically a public good in some ways, where it's like we're all maintaining it, right? So it's not like, an app that's data mining you. It's like, you're paying somebody to run the blockchain to hold the data for you, and it's decentralized. So I think a big kind of in this kind of bear market and into the next bull, I think L2s are going to be really, really important for any new kind of organization or company wanting to use Web3 tooling. And I like that phrase, Web3 tooling, right? Because it's a tool set. It doesn't, you don't have to use it. It's just a new kind of tool set to use. I'm excited because now we're starting to pay like less than a cent for gas on these layer 2s. So Polygon, Arbitrum, Optimism are really big ones. And there's other proof of stake L1s like Salo. I think, Voice is running on their own too. So these new kind of blockchain platforms, they are allowing people to mint so cheaply that it starts to be usable for everyday people. Right now, Ethereum, sorry guys, no one's going to pay $20 in gas, but people are willing to pay maybe 10 cents. So I think that's another piece of this like adoption curve that we're kind of going for.
And let me double click on something you said there, because I absolutely agree that if we could appreciate art for art, that would be phenomenal. And that is the goal. Unfortunately, that's not what we're being told in Web3. The media is constantly going, look at this ape that sold for $3 billion. And you're like, cool, why? But that's all we hear constantly is money, money, money. And so to just double click on kind of your idea of a roadmap, I agree. Roadmaps set expectations that are really difficult to follow, especially in Web3 when things change so far. But you need to create the right vibe, maybe the right word, or at least plan. Because if you've got this community and they come in without a plan, so many times they devolve into money. And if you've got people coming in and going, my last venture, I made $1 million. What do you think everyone in your community is going to be talking about? And it's constantly that. So you need to at least have some sort of plan forward going, we are building this for the right reasons. We're building this for longevity. We are not in this for some sort of pump and dump scheme. We want to make sure that we are here for the right reasons. So I'm kind of mixed on this where, yeah, roadmap's probably not the right way. But if you were going to build a community, make sure you have vision that isn't about dollar signs, because you'll just fail. Graveyards of Discord Web3 communities out there litter the scheme of the ones that expected to make a lot of money and then have not.
Yeah, vision is such a good
differentiation.
Yeah.
Love it. Thank you guys so much. So I know that we're almost coming up on time. I do want to throw out one last question for the panelists before we leave some time at the end to go through some of our audience Q&As. Just for the audience, if you left your Q&A in the chat channel, if you wouldn't mind moving it over to the Q&A channel, just resending it so that we can have them all in the same place, that'd be really, really great. So for the last question for the panelists today, I'd love to hear what advice you would give to folks in the audience who maybe are very new to Web3, don't really understand what Web3 is just yet. What advice would you give to them if they're interested in perhaps starting to like dip their toes into Web3, or perhaps joining or starting their own Web3 community?
Get on Twitter. It's like really hard to be in this space or be exploring this space, I think, without paying attention to what's going on Twitter. That said, it can also get a little toxic. So be on Twitter, but not too much. But I do think that, like, jokes aside, don't be afraid to explore and ask questions. I think that, there is like, we're in this really beautiful moment where pretty much everybody is new to the space. And so people have a more welcoming vibe than they're ever going to have, right? Like this is it. And yes, there's scams. Yes, there's bad actors, but they pop up everywhere. But the vast majority of people who are exploring Web3 are doing it with the right intention. So you find your people, you help each other, and you can't lose.
Love Emily's thoughts on Twitter, and that's a really important sort of point. What Web 2 did really well was allow people to kind of write. Web 1 was reading, Web 2 is writing. But what the fall of Web 2, or at least the kind of big issue, is anonymity. And oh my God, being anonymous, cannot speak. Trolls and anonymous bots and the ability to just like say whatever you want without repercussions is awful. And Twitter's a great example of like brilliant minds and just the worst thoughts of humanity. Web 3 is not about that. Web 3 is about ownership and personality and true identity. So when you're building a community, realize that you're creating this for real people. So educate, put out your vibe, create your right sort of longevity plan of this is what we want to build for these right people, and know that these are going to be real people joining you, because that's what Web3 is all about. So, take full advantage of that, is that this age of these anonymous, I was going to say a bad word, just say jerks, these anonymous jerks out there, is coming to an end, or at least we are taking steps to kind of end them. And that's the community you can build, and you can start that right now. And that's really exciting.
Yeah, I'll kind of wrap on just, I think a lot of the perception of Web3 is fueled by like GigaChat internet culture. And like, again, it's like, and I think, Web3 when I joined was not a diverse place. I'm gonna be real about it, right? It was not a diverse place. I was one of the few Black people, one of the few queer people, one of the few trans people. So I think the response, and I really want to challenge everyone here, because I know, a lot of the community space is mostly like women, AFAB folks, but I really want to challenge us to look at the technology, not the culture, because we build the culture. The technology is there for us to choose, right? So I think it's about drowning out the whole, like, just the noise of it. And it's hard to kind of say what is the noise, but being like, what are people building? What is this technology? Because I would hate to see, again, a Web 2 happen where it's like a homogenous group of people, at least in the US, adopting it, and then all of us being, toxically kind of like excluded. I want everyone to be in Web3, and I think Web3 is a global, diverse community. And I am fighting and trying to champion that. But again, we're dealing with historic inequities. So I think when you're coming into Web3, the frame of mind is, who do I want to listen to? And again, I'm on Twitter if people want to connect with me. But who do I want to listen to? Who's speaking in my language? And if no one is, maybe it's time for me to speak up. And it's time for me to imagine and dream and create what I want this Web3 technology to do. Because technology is just technology. We are humans. We make the technology what we want it. So again, I don't know, champion your own dreams, dream boldly into the future. Don't let just a group of people dictate what Web3 is for you. So, I don't know. Those are my thoughts.
I love that. Also, building on technology, just very quickly, not everyone can do this, but if you can, try to build in-house, because third-party platforms create third-party problems. I can't say that. Third-party platforms create third-party problems. If you are on Discord and you run into a Discord issue, you have to then go to Discord. So if you want to actually create a space that is wonderful and accepting and open and creates the right vibe that En was just talking about, if you can do that in-house, I would recommend it. Not everyone can, but if you are a large company and you're looking to get into Web3 space, start foundationally and build from the ground up.
Love it. Amazing. So we have a little over 10 minutes left. I do want to take a quick jump through some of the questions that we're getting in the Q&A channel. Once again, for folks who were submitting their questions in the chat channel, feel free to just move those over to the Q&A channel so that we can potentially answer them in the last 10 minutes here. So one of the first questions that we got, which I think is definitely something that we briefly touched upon a little bit, but if the panelists wouldn't mind kind of expanding on their thoughts on this, the question is, what is the future of DAOs in the community space?
Okay, so I have a hot take, as I always do. So DAOs generally represent, oh no, we lost one. Decentralized autonomous organization was the original definition. I like democratic asynchronous organization. So for me, DAOs are literally co-ops. right? It's just, I would say the Giga Chat framing. And it's just like, the kind of like, I don't know, maybe depoliticized framing. But for me, all a DAO is a community that's making decisions together, right? Democratically, asynchronous, right? It can be a global, it doesn't have to be just local like many co-ops are. So I think for me, like the future of DAOs is just, how do we give each other value? How do we treat each other fairly? How do we imagine different types of governance and different types of corporate structuring? It's really just a question, in my opinion, of like, do we have to do it how corporations do it? Or can we do it with this new technology in a way that empowers everyone individually and as a collective? So that's my thought.
Love that. Great. If no one else has any comments, we can jump to the next question, which is, what are some pain points involved in the process of building communities in Web3 and crypto? Anonymous says, so much hype there. How do you make a sustainable community?
Yeah. Hype and scams, as I mentioned, and just like the speed of things can make it really difficult. I think that, what has worked for us is kind of like stripping away a lot of the noise and just like continuously reiterating like what we're here for. If you're not here for that, this probably isn't the place for you, right? Like voice really, like we don't even touch a lot of the like speculative nature of NFTs, where like if you're here for like investment purposes or trying to like make a ton of money in like 2 days, this isn't it. We're here to support artists, and I think that like, just the reiteration of that and the proof points that we demonstrate, right? We're constantly showcasing art. That is how we've kind of avoided some of the chaos that comes with Web3, but it's not perfect, right? Like every single day I feel like I hear of another like Discord getting hacked, or of another like, bad actor entering the space, and that's like, we all take a few little steps back. But it's like the slow and steady game, in my opinion. I don't know if I answered the question.
No, that's spot on, Emily. The only thing I will add to that is just get yourself a community manager or a few. Find someone who really understands the Web3 space and actually can regulate or at least moderate, because it's so easy to let these things go. There are Web3 communities that go from 200 users to 20,000 users overnight. They blow up, something happens. And lots of companies aren't ready. They haven't built the foundation. They haven't built the right team. They don't know what to do when this goes on, and then it just explodes. And as I mentioned earlier, Web3 is so fast. Everything is moving faster than anyone has seen anything happen in Web2. So get yourself people who completely understand the space, who understand what you're trying to build. Again, this long-term plan of, we are building for scalability. We're building for, community. We're not building for profit, but if it happens, great. So find someone who can actually moderate around those things, and you'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? Things are going to happen. This is community management 101, is you plan for the best and then everything explodes. So no matter how good they are, the stuff will still happen, but at least you'll be ready for the basics. And that is enough to begin with.
Yeah, I just want to plus one everything you guys said, because I think Discord is a terrible tool, but I think the reason Discord's so popular is it's able to, interact with Web3 technology more than any community platform out there at the current juncture, right? It's like, even like Circle, like Mighty Networks, any other platform that I might choose before Discord, at least for Wonder, like we wanted to integrate with our platform, right, that we're building, and we need those, Web3 bots that, allows the kind of interfacing with the Web3 technology. So for me, like, I have been very hardline with security, and like, I've been saying, kind of plugging guild.xyz. I posted the link in the chat. That makes you verify that you are human with an address on the blockchain, and make sure that you're a real person before joining your Discord. That has tanked our growth. But I feel like it's, again, a mission and vision aligned decision. When we do get an influx in the future, when the product launches, people will say, wow, like you made me feel safe here. There's not spam. Like people have already commented and complimented our Discord saying, we don't get spam from you. We hear from you when we want to hear from you, right? We tap in when we want to tap in. And it's, again, I like this word, choose your own adventure. Right? I don't want to dictate what you have to do. I want you to have options and be able to explore and kind of grow in your own, like, where you're at currently. So yeah.
Amazing. The next question is, sorry.
One last second. If you feel a little like you don't even know where to begin, I'm going to do self-plug here. Please check out Product Hunt. We are filled with every sort of Web3 company out there. You can see what they're working on. very similar to something that you're probably working on. It's an incredible community of thought starters and conversations and support. So if you actually have no idea where to begin with and you just want to do that, go to Product Hunt, type in Web3. I guarantee you'll find interesting things going on. So there's my self-plug.
Yes.
That's the one.
Plus one.
I got one and that's it.
Thanks, Alex. Great. So next question is from Anonymous. How do you all feel about one-to-one NFTs, and should they also have a community strategy?
So I'm guessing, so one of ones. So yeah, I'm guessing it was 1-to-1. It depends. It really depends on the artist and like, again, what their intention is. For some people who are like, I just want to put my art out there for people to see and enjoy, like, you don't need to have a larger strategy than that. If you want to go all in into Web3 and build a community and do all of the things, then you should probably have a plan. But I think that, the most successful one-on-ones that we've seen on Voice are just incredible work, and people buy them because they want to support the artists.
Wonderful. Another question from another anonymous says, okay, so maybe a hot take, but I feel like there's something really icky about Web3. It just seems so transactional rather than real human connection. Curious to hear how you'd address that concern.
I saw this question, and that was kind of what prompted my kind of tirade about you choose the culture. Right, the technology ultimately is not making the decision; it's the people who are like building on top of it. Right. So again, you can center mutual aid, social justice. You can center women of color globally. Right. You can do whatever you want with this technology. It's just on us to decide those things. So if it feels icky, I think I would throw back. Why does it feel icky? Where is that feeling coming from? Because I think it's people saying Bored Ape Yacht Club, but completely ignoring crypto coven. Right, so there's like these kind of these kind of dualities in Web3, and it's like, what future do we want to manifest? What future do we want to buy into? I own a crypto coven. I often will like change my PFP on Twitter to other NFTs, and I'll bring my girl back. Iris is her name, Iris the Gentle. So like again, it's about what world do we want to build together with this technology, and that is a societal, that's a personal, that's a community decision. It's not something that can be just dictated by Web3 is icky, right? So I really want to push back and like challenge that person to really be more critical of why they feel that way, to then hopefully be a part of the solution.
Okay. I know we only have 2 minutes left, so the last question for our panelists today is kind of around this idea of building equitable onboarding strategies to bring as many people as we can into Web3. So Anonymous says, it was mentioned that Web3 is more accessible than other methods of community building. How do you ensure equitable access when there's a huge learning curve, mostly a technical one, to be able to get involved?
Yes, I love this question. And I'm biased because like the whole reason Voice exists is to try to make it easier to get into NFTs. And so our platform is super, super easy to use. Two things that we've really been focusing on for the last 3 months is, one, we build out an entire education hub. So you can go and you can select like what level you are at in your Web3 journey. If you're a creator, you're a collector, and get all of the information that you need. And that's accessible to everyone, not just people who use Voice. And two, we've been launching residencies, which have been basically pilot programs to help onboard digital artists, anyone into the Web3 space. We give them the money to get started. We give them the education, the support. And the more we're able to scale that, the more people who are going to feel comfortable going out and telling their community members how to join. And so, yeah, it's super, super important core component of what I do every single day.
Love it. Thank you so much. And let's see, I guess we may have time for one more question, super, super quick. So let's see. I think this one could be very topical. Damian Lee asks, any tips to start building a community during a bear market?
Ooh, I have thoughts.
Go for it.
Go ahead, Alex. I'll let you go, Alex.
Oh, we can't. Oh, can anyone else hear him?
Oh, we lost
Alex. Okay, I'll talk while Alex is fixing it. I think that it's all like now's the time to educate people. Like Emily's saying, that's why I love her program. It's so time for that, right? Now is the time to just, engage with people who might be curious, right? It takes away that financial aspect and lets us dream bigger. So yeah, I think it's really just about educating, building with people, evangelizing, right? Just being like, what do you think this could be used for, right? Exploring with people. And again, in the crypto world, the Web3 world, the best products were built in the bear market every single time, right? FWB, Uniswap, most major DeFi projects were built in the last crypto winter. So like, really, this is the time. And I'm thinking that Wonder is going to be one of those products that in the next bull market. Anyway, not gonna show. Go ahead, Alex.
No, and I agree with basically all of that. The answer is not a ton changes. You're just gonna, if you're looking for funding, this is where you're really gonna run into issues. Every VC I know is like, hey, I was working on all these projects, now I'm not. And you're like, all right, we are probably about to hit a recession. Probably. So if you're looking to start a community that needs $1 million to begin with, don't. If you're looking for something that can be scrappy, that can be interesting, that again can use maybe the tools that exist. Again, if I mentioned earlier, trying to build at home, if you can't, you want to use something that exists and has mentioned a ton of great products today, do that. Try something. This is a great time to experiment. This is a great time to be like, all right, let's do something with little risk, maybe lots of reward. So yeah, you just have to be more careful with what you're doing. You have to be more thoughtful. That's really what it comes down to.
Wonderful. Thank you all so much for your time today. Thank you to our audience members for just being so engaged and posing really thoughtful questions. I wish we had more time to get to the rest of them, but again, thank you so much, everyone, for taking the time out of your day. And please feel free to hit up any of us on crypto Twitter. We can drop our drop our handles in the chat, and we can help you get started on crypto Twitter if you are not really sure who to follow or where to start. But really appreciate everyone's engagement today, and we will see you in Discord / Twitter, and hopefully some other tool that is built to replace Discord.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for joining us. I'm also really quickly going to plug in the chat. We have a new course coming out on crypto, NFTs, and Web3 in the C School. So definitely want to give you all the opportunity to sign up to find out when enrollment goes live. So I'm going to drop that in the chat right now.
Who's leading it?
So there we go. So that is happening. It should be launching soon. Who is leading it? Oh my gosh. It is linked in the course. I'm scatterbrained right now, but I promise you it is on that webpage.
It's almost like you have other things on your mind right now. I can't even begin to imagine.
Oh, nothing. Just
nothing at all. Yeah.
Nothing going on over here. But we are going to take a very quick break, and we are going to be back after the break for creating a community-led strategy with Amanda Martin. So again, feel free to run to the restroom, take a quick call, pop into one of those sessions. I know we've got a lot of Denver folks in here, so if you want to head out over there, meet up with some of them virtually, and we will see you in just another minute. Thank you to our panelists.